Hi Stuart, thanks for the footies, thanks for making contact. Before I go on to the moves that I feel you need to be working on initially, I thought I'd just take this opportunity to give you offer my thoughts on the overall action. I touched on it a little bit via the email, but obviously it's easier to do it in this manner. So just a sort of quick overview of where I feel, or the areas at which I feel you need to be focusing on going forward. And then what I'll do is I'll then focus a little bit more primarily on what's going on down the line against the model, face on against the model, and then try and sort of, get you to understand the movements that are more pertinent as we stand at the moment. So we're going to have to work this in gradually. Before we do that, just a quick overview. What I see here from down the line, and this is relating to you getting stuck, hitting pull hooks, etc. as per your email. Pretty good setup. I've no doubt when I look at it from face on, people might comment you've got, strong left hand grip. Not got a major issue with that. I quite like that actually. Hands definitely go out too much too soon. I appreciate that this is a little bit of a skewed angle, so that's not giving us an accurate representation of what the path of the hands is from setup to waist level. But looking at the tilts in your shoulders, the condition of the left arm, etc., I would say that left arm is going out too much. I'm just going to make a little sort of mark on it at this point, sort of where the left arm is when it's parallel with the ground. You can see then the shaft starts to get twisted, club moves in behind you, and then the left arm is sort of retracted, stays really close to the right shoulder. You see how much more inwards. We just sort of miss left arm parallel coming down, but we're not too far off at that point. So the left arm now is angled in substantially more coming down than it was going back. It's out of necessity. You can't play golf from the position you're in at that point. So the rest of the backswing and the transition is an attempt to get the arms on the inside or get the arms in a little bit more, so that you can deliver the sweet spot from in behind the hands. And unfortunately, that's quite a difficult move to make. Some players make it work. I'm not saying that you can't see players demonstrating that at the highest level. But would that be the most efficient move to make, especially for a hooker of the golf ball? I would say not. So, down the line, I know I mentioned your leg action during the email, which is where I want to spend most of the time on today, but I do want to offer a few thoughts down the line as well so that you can work on it in between sessions. From face on, so we just talked about the sort of arms lifting. You can see the left shoulder, even though you commented on maybe focusing on that left shoulder, working down a little bit. The shoulder's relatively level based on that initial move that we see with the hands from setup to waist level. So when the hands go out, the player tends to have level shoulder tilts, or more level shoulder tilts at that point in the swing. Top of the backswing lacks a little bit of turn. Certainly could get more shoulder travel than that via better use of the hands, better use of the arms in the takeaway. But my main concern when I'm looking at it from face on is the way the legs work. Initially, the arms can't really do a great deal. They can't move away from the right shoulder because you're attempting to get that club and get the arms on the inside. So you've got to keep that left arm moving in towards the chest. So the distance between the right shoulder and the lead arm doesn't really change in the early part of the swing. Starts to fire now, but that's about as early as you fire it. So the only mechanism you've really got for lowering the golf club and for getting the arms on the inside is driving the legs forward. And I actually quite like that first move that you make. I don't think that's excessive. The hip slides going in there, or the linear movements going in there. Hips are getting back into forward flexion. Some nice hip slide going on there. I mean, a lot of players at club level, but at any level, would kill for that sort of move. So that's really nice. But because of what's going on with the arms, it gets a little bit excessive. That lead knee holds its flex for too long. The right knee drives forward and inwards too much. And it's all really an attempt to get the club back on the inside. Keep the arms on the inside. Right shoulder gets a little bit too low coming into the golf ball. And then that lead knee is continuing to hold its flex all the way through. And you can see you have real difficulty clearing the hips. The lead foot starts to roll. Toe end comes up. That's the pressure going into the heel, allowing you to turn the hips, but it's not a terribly efficient manner. So we want the hips to continue to open up through the hip, and we've got to look at doing it in a more efficient manner. What I see as a player who's really driving the legs hard to keep the arms in, then feels stuck, starts to roll the back of the left hand to get the club back in a position to hit the ball, and then doesn't extend the lower body, so the lead leg doesn't straighten. The only way you can then turn the hips is by sort of rolling that left foot. You tend to come up and out the shot a little bit too fast. Arms start to get thrown off the torso, and that's going to create a situation where you're hitting out excessively at the golf ball. So we've got the action of the legs is far too involved, far too active. We want to calm that down a lot and get the legs working in a more appropriate manner. So what I want to do now is get some model swings up. I'm going to spend a little bit of time looking at your takeaway down the line, and then I'm going to spend a little bit more time working on the leg action and what it should do. Mainly face on, might touch on a few areas down the line. Okay, so we look at the first move away from the golf ball. The hands start to elevate too fast. And again, I appreciate this is a slightly skewed view, but you get the idea. Hands elevate too fast. And instead of working incrementally inwards and upwards, our playing references will be going forward through the shaft or through the hands. So that's hand playing. Then gradually from waist level onwards, we'd start to move on to this elbow plane. So in your case, you get onto elbow plane too fast. You start to get above elbow plane, and then you start to put the club back onto that elbow plane. And you can see there, that's that sort of stuck position that you get, pushing the club in, stuck. So what we want to see in the takeaway is a more incremental move where the club and the hands trace the hand plane line from setup to waist level. So the hands are working inwards and upwards, inwards and upwards, inwards and upwards, inwards and upwards, all the way to waist level, before then elevating onto that higher plane as the lead arm, as the trail arm starts to flex, etc., etc. So the club's already in, and then during the downswing, the player doesn't need to then go looking for that left arm in, club on the mid bicep sort of position that all good players demonstrate. So we want to see a little bit more inward in the early part of the swing. So I'm just going to take those two swings back. At waist level, club is out too much, hands are out too much. The relationship between the club and the hands is quite nice, but the move the hands makes, the trajectory of the hands, so the hand path is a little bit out. So the key thought there in the takeaway would be hands in. And the way you would practice this, you would put a alignment cane across the toe line. And during the takeaway, by the time you get to waist level, you want to feel like the hands are over the top of the cane that's on the stance line. We can see here that clearly that's not the case. So don't want you rolling the club on the inside. I want you concentrating more on what the hands are doing, not necessarily what the club's doing. So we need to work on the hand path. You can see when the hands come in more, it's easier to get the tilts in the shoulders that we're looking for at that point in the swing. So that's the down the line aspect of the takeaway that I'd like you to introduce into your game initially. In regards to your face on work and the way the legs work, I want to spend a little bit more time now looking at that for you. When we look at the swing, I'm just going to have to zoom this in quickly. From face on, we talked about how the legs are working. I'm just going to move you to the sort of when the right arm, when the shaft's getting parallel to the ground in the downswing, and get Grant in the same sort of position. You know, when I look at those two swings, I see a slight difference in the shoulders, but nothing dramatic. I see a player who on the left looks like he's starting to hang back. That's all to do with what we talked about down the line. You're trying to get the club on the inside, so that right shoulder's not working in the correct manner. And all that we can tidy up, and that will start to tidy up with the work that you do in the takeaway, because there'll be less of a need to, in transition, pull the club and the arms in. But the leg action's looking pretty similar at that point. So what I want to do here is just focus on what the elite players' legs do through the hit and the effects it's going to have on the golf swing. So as he's coming into the golf ball now, he's hitting an iron, so he's going to have negative loft. So he wants to hit down with a little bit less loft than he has at setup, which is fine. And we start to see that the lead leg starts to just lose a little bit of flex coming into impact. That creates a little bit more club head speed. It creates a little bit of a flatter low point to the arc. And it also helps to start to bring the club out of its descent, so it doesn't get driven into the ground too highly, too steeply, or at too high a rate. So gradually straightening the leg throughout the hit, really, from when the shaft is parallel to the ground in the downswing to when the right arm is parallel with the ground in the through swing. We can see that there is a straightening of both legs. And if you follow the system, that's the raising of the belt, the tucking of the hips, etc., etc. So the belt's raising, the hips are tucking, and that's created by using the ground in an appropriate manner. So with an iron, we want to have some knee flex in that left leg at impact, and we should be gradually getting rid of it throughout the hit. With yourself, the knee flex is maintained coming into impact, and then it's maintained all the way through impact. Now, your range of movement is good enough and your ability is good enough to make that work to a degree, but it's not a terribly efficient move into the golf ball. So we need to learn to use the ground a little bit more effectively. We need to learn to condition the legs. This is not necessarily going to involve you thinking directly about the legs during the swing. This is going to be more about you practicing in a certain manner that encourages the move that we see on the right hand side, where the player is gradually pushing up out the ground. So the big difference here would be on the angle of the pelvis, the amount of flex in the trail leg, in the lead leg, and the way that lead foot is working as well. When you're swinging in that manner, keeping the lead leg flexed you are running the risk of shifting the swing direction too much to the right, which will exaggerate the amount you hit out at the golf ball, and it will also increase the rate of closure on the club face. As a result, that's going to give you things like pushes, heel strikes, quick hooks, pull hooks, etc., which are some of the things that you've talked about in your emails. So how do we condition that sort of move during practice? The best drill for this sort of move is to hit hard and stop quick. And I'm just going to get Mike Bennett up now doing this drill. Now, it's a down the line drill. Apologies for that. If you need any more information on this, you can obviously feel free to just send me an email. I'm just going to get the models up here for us and have a little look at Mike. Okay, so in this video, Mike is trying to lower his exit. You can see on the takeaway that the hand path is more inward, as discussed. The left arm is already in by the time it's midway back. So during the downswing, there's no need to pull it in. So that will make the transition a little bit tidier. It'll start to calm the leg action down as well. You've got to drive the legs to get that club in. So, that'll start to calm down. As Mike comes through the shot here, he's going to hit this shot full speed, but he's going to stop much quicker than he would normally stop. So he's stopping that shot or that swing at about chest height. So he's not letting the arms get past the chest. So he's hitting hard and he's stopping quick. It's fair to say that, a lot of guys, when they look at stack and tilt, one of the questions they come up with, I've been asking a number of times, particularly with professionals I deal with, why is the follow through a little bit more curtailed? And the answer to that is twofold for me. I think, first of all, it's more curtailed because we swing in a manner that is more efficient. We don't let the arms get flung off the torso anywhere near as much as a lot of people do. So consequently, the speed is absorbed much more efficiently, and we're able to control what the arms are doing in the finish. It's not our finish that's too short. It's the traditional method where the arms are flung off the torso, like with yourself, where the finish gets a little bit long. And the other reason for that, for this, shorter finish, is that a lot of players that we work with spend a lot of time working on drills where we ask them to stop when the right arm's about parallel with the ground or when the hands are at chest height, because it's a really nice way of checking the tilts. Once we get past that point in the swing, the hip slide's maxed out, the extension is maxed out, the turn is maxed out, etc. So beyond that point, things will start to change, and it's a little bit of a false position to look at. So number of reasons why we're a little bit more controlled in the follow through. So back to the drill. If you're hitting hard and stopping quick, like Mike's doing on the right, a number of things have to happen. The arms must stay attached to the rib cage. Once the arms leave the rib cage, there's no way you're going to stop them as quick as Mike's demonstrating there. So that's number one. For the arms to stop on the rib cage, the player's pelvis must come out of its forward tilt coming into the golf ball to allow the hips to continue to turn. And then for the player's pelvis to come out of its forward tilt and the hips to continue to turn, the player must straighten the lead leg. So what you're doing here in this drill is you're actually reverse engineering, for want of a better expression, the move that you struggle with. So you're reverse engineering what the lead leg does through the hip. So looking at what we don't like in the theory swing, with the sort of the Byron Nelson analogy that you used, I couldn't agree more with you on that, where the knees sag a little bit too far, where the head maybe drops back a little bit, might be a feeling that you get. And you're looking at why that's happening. It's happening because the arms, if we look at that in context of this drill, the arms have got thrown off the rib cage because the pelvis hasn't been able to come out of its forward bend, because the lead leg hasn't pushed up and straightened. So we've got a situation where we want to try and try and remedy things. Your pelvis here looks like it's come out of its forward bend because the right knee has sagged so much. So it's almost like, again, a false position. It's like someone putting something in to allow the body to do what it needs to do, but it's not the most efficient way of doing it. So hit hard, stop quick. You can do that drill with any club in the bag. As you're doing that, ideally what I'd like you to do is maybe do that drill for a week, with the exception of everything else. Hit hard, stop quick. It'll feel very, very alien when you first do it. It's really going to take you out your comfort zone. It's going to take maybe a session or two to familiarise yourself with the new feels, to start to get the arms under control. You might get things arising that, new feels or new thoughts, whatever. Just don't hesitate, send me an email, and I can go through it with you. But hitting hard, stopping quick really starts to tidy up the leg action. Once you've been practicing this for a week or so, let's get a bit of footage, just email it across, let me have a quick look at it. We won't do it as an online lesson, I just want to do it as a bit of a follow-up, just to keep making sure that you're moving in the right direction with it. So we want the hand path coming in more during the takeaway, and then we want to hit a lot of shots where we're hitting hard and stopping quick, so that we're learning to push up out of the ground through the hip, which will bring the hips or bring the pelvis out of its forward tilt, allowing you to control the rate of closure on the club face, etc., etc. Before we complete, I just want you to look at this image of Dustin Johnson from a slightly skewed angle. There's not many use the ground better than Dustin Johnson playing at the top level. You can see as he changes direction, he's bent, he flexes forward, he goes into the ground. So the hips at this point, or the pelvis at this point, is in a forward bend. Now as he's coming into the golf ball, now this is there's two reasons he does this. One is to generate speed. The other is to shallow out the angle of attack with the driver. He starts to push up a little bit sooner. You can see the lead leg straightening, the right leg starting to push up. The pelvis now is starting to come out of its forward bend. Let me just play this through. You can see the level of the belt raising as the legs straighten, allowing the hips to continue to turn, allowing the arms to stay connected to the body. And the hips at that point now, or the pelvis at that point now, is very level. So the hips have gone from a forward bend to a more level condition through the hip. Just a different view of the move that we've just been talking about, the move that we want to try and encourage in your golf swing. So good luck with it. Keep me posted. If you've got any questions, feel free to contact me at any point. Good luck.